Hi, I'm Chris. This is Finding God at Work. Okay, so this is going to be a different episode than normal. Normally you all get to hear just my lovely voice, but today we have two very special guests. So would my guests like to maybe introduce themselves? You could say your name, what you do at the food bank, and maybe a fun fact or something.
Sure. Guess I'll start because you're looking at me. I feel like I guess I'll start. I'm Weija Chang. I work as a service design lead on the innovation team here at the food bank. Fun fact about me. I don't know if it's a fun fact. I think it's fun, but I actually am not very into sweets. So I know that is a common default, but you could put an entire Portillo's chocolate cake at my desk, and I probably will not eat it.
Wow.
You could leave it there. I would probably not touch it for weeks.
Yeah.
And that would not be a problem for me.
Even if you left it there for weeks, I don't think passersby would leave it.
I think other people would, and I would welcome though. Yeah. I would probably give them a pleading look of
now that I know this too.
Me.
If I ever see a chocolate cake by your cubicle, I will come relieve you of at least
please,
a large slice of it.
Please do. Yeah. So I'm happy to let others enjoy cookies and cake. I have very random cravings, like once a year. And then I only really like gummy bears and ice cream.
Those are still good though.
Yeah, those are like my only.
At the same time, like ice cream with gummy bears, like froyo style.
Sometimes, but it gets hard. The gummy bear, you have to eat it quick on the ice cream, otherwise it changes it. Yeah. So
awesome.
So yes, random fun fact.
Thanks for joining us today, Weija.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I'm Rose Brucal. And I'm a database coordinator here at the food bank. And my fun fact is that I love sweets. So we're the exact opposite in that sense. So while you would ignore the Portillo's cake, I would just devour it. My thing is that I always have to have dessert almost with every meal. But I'm trying to get away from that. So it's not working out so far.
All right. So I feel like you're telling me do not come to you for help.
To try to get, no. Because I probably have sweets all over my desk or I try to find some, so.
Okay.
But, if you have sweets and you want to give it away, come to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Fantastic. And regular podcast listeners already know who I am. But at the food bank, at the time of this recording, am about to switch into a new role at the food bank. Yes. So I'm going to be a development officer on the corporate foundation and organization team.
Yay.
Yeah, which I'm excited about. Got to do some fundraising. So, yeah. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, oh, I want to learn more about the food bank, you could also talk to me about the food bank, not just about Mission Central. So in our last episode, I talked about creating a curiosity context that's communal. And at the food bank, we have one of those, and we call it Hungry for More. And Weija and Rose are my co-conspirators in creating Hungry for More at the food bank. So my first question is, tell your perspective of how Hungry for More got started and what it was like for you.
I feel like you should start.
Oh, sure. Okay, thank you, Weija. Wow, well, I think when you approached me with the whole concept, I thought right away, oh, that'd be so cool, just to get a bunch of people to get together and talk. I love connecting with people outside of work or outside of just the work environment. So we'll talk about topics that we all think about, but don't have time to discuss in our day-to-day at work. Thought that was a great idea. And you coming to me and asking me to be a part of it, I thought that's exciting. But at the same time, I was kind of hesitant because I'm like, okay, what can I offer in terms of that? But when we first started, it just became organic and flowed. So, and then here we are today. I think it's we just finished our
third series?
Yeah, third series.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've covered a lot so far. And I feel the response from the people that have been coming have been great. So,
yeah.
It's been a great journey so far.
Awesome. Awesome. And Rose, have you ever done something similar, like in a different context, like at your church, or?
Yes, I have. I've been a part of Alpha, which is kind of like a Christian type program where they introduce the concepts of God and faith. So, in being part of that and being a leader in the different groups, it has kind of opened my eyes to different perspectives, because the people that go there are people of faith and people that are kind of searching, and some people that are not, are of different denominations also. So just coming together and trying to wrap their head around those important questions about spirituality, and getting together and to discuss it and to share our experiences, I think is such a powerful thing. A lot of it kind of reiterated the fact that we're not alone in our seeking in terms of the purpose in life. So when you brought up Hungry for More, I just felt natural, like, okay, this is going to be great. More talking, more connection between people. And in the workplace, I feel that that's something that needs to be discussed, whether it's a topic that's spiritual or not. I feel like the only way that we grow together is by connecting and by just talking about just certain things. So
Yeah.
it's been great.
Thank you.
Sure.
Cool. So what I remember this conversation of when you approached me, Chris, I think you were excited to find co-facilitators for this group. And you had talked to me about how you wanted to find a place for us to not really walk on eggshells, and having more honest conversations about our belief systems and where people felt faith and religion played a role. And I remember this conversation distinctly where we were downstairs by the front desk, because I had actually shared with you then that I'm an atheist, and it's taken me a long time to also be more public in sharing that, because I did not always feel safe and felt okay to share that. And so I remember I was interested in this idea, and I'd also, at the time you approached me, I don't think you knew this, but the time you approached me, I was also having other conversations with just friends about how, like, our world is so divisive, and it's just like there's just a lot of confusion and misunderstandings, and it's like, how do we create communal spaces that is really open to everyone? And I remember I was a little, I really like the idea of kind of creating a space for these kind of conversations, but bringing my own experience of being hesitant to share that, I did not always share with others so publicly. I wanted to make sure that we were very intentional about creating group agreements and designing the space specifically. And so if you're not familiar with service design, that is very, very, very service designy. And also I became a service designer. It's about being intentional. And so I love facilitation. I like the idea of having thoughtful facilitation and kind of guiding people in conversations and in discussions. And there's definitely things that I wanted to better understand and also think through and reflect on my own. And I had been listening to, I think it was a different podcast, where it was about workplaces and how most of the time you actually engage with more diversity in workspaces than anywhere else in your network in your life, because most of the time in your communities you are kind of like in your own, you're connected and that's your safe space, and there's nothing off with that. But workplace, work colleagues, and the people you happen to meet and work with, you get a chance to kind of learn about a different perspective and a different experience and a different thinking. And so I thought it would be really cool figure out how do we engage, and I had a lot of ideas about facilitation, and it seemed like a great space.
Yes.
And hungry
Yeah.
for more for me to test out or kind of just like practice.
Yeah.
You had a lot of great ideas. It was things that you led, just
Yeah.
a lot of great ideas, and people were engaged and open. So
Thanks, Rose.
thanks for
And
contributing.
I remember one of those ideas was the group agreement that like we actually formed together, kind of a set of commitments of like how we were going to have these conversations. I should have brought the handout, but like off the top of my head, some of the things we came up with were like agree to disagree, like we're going to have different convictions, and that's okay. Listening respectfully to each other. What were some? Everyone is welcome, right? All different perspectives welcome.
Yep.
Keeping it fun.
Yeah. Kind of just
Yeah.
like, you're here to listen and understand someone else's experience. So speak your truth. That's a very, very important one for me. And I use it commonly in my work now with the food bank, and because I do a lot of things where we engage with people who use the services, and we want to make sure people feel comfortable, I think, about sharing, and I think highly recommend, especially in spaces where the conversation is going to be a lot of different opinions and a lot of strong feelings, that it's important to kind of have everyone understand how we can be respectful. Because I will also say, I think like, growing up and being in other facilitated conversations, like I enjoyed when facilitators said it themselves of like, hey, we need to be respectful. But I think group agreements really breaks it out of like, what does that look like? What does it actually look like to be respectful to each other? Because, right, if we're like, oh yeah, be respectful, everyone's like, yes, yes.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah, but it's like, what does that look like? Like, what does that mean? And how do I know if someone is not being, respectful? Yeah.
Just to kind of like give people maybe more of like a visualization. We're actually in the room where we often have our meetings right now. But like Rose, could you go over like what is a normal meeting of Hungry for More like?
Sure. Well, I guess we pretty much just bring our own food. So we kind of have like a meal.
So not too hungry.
Right, not too hungry, it's just in the name. We come in and we kind of just, do a little small talks, just kind of chat. And then when the actual meeting starts, we go over the ground rules, which is, and we always have the handouts, which is a good reminder. And we do have people that come in that are new or just come in once in a while, so it's good, kind of like a good reminder to have that. And then someone introduces the topic, whether it's, one of us, and then we kind of go around the room and kind of talk about different topics. Though the last session we had, it was a storytelling kind of format, which was, I think, kind of a cool concept.
That was really fun.
Yes.
Yeah. So usually it's like topic driven, but this was like you tell a story about the topic, so people prepped in advance.
Right, and and that was really great to see because kind of just people have their stories. We know that we each have our story, but prefer to give someone that kind of that space to say, okay, what is your story? Pick a topic. What topic resonates with you? And tell us about your story. And I was amazed by some of the stories that people told and how open and how vulnerable they were in sharing that, but also not just the vulnerability, but also the confidence in being able to share that. A lot of them were stories of past traumas, but yet through those traumas, there was resilience and hope, and to get to move to where they are now.
Yeah.
So just to see that growth, and I'm sure the same with you, all of you, I learned a lot from that storytelling. So I think that was very powerful.
Yeah. What I really enjoyed about the storytelling series too, because again, it's like it just broke down of like what is not the surface level. Like so many people shared, like you're saying, like so many of really difficult, some very traumatic moments that define their life, and it's like as coworkers, you may not know that necessarily. You may just be like, oh, this is so and so who works in this department, and maybe you cross paths with them in a project, or maybe you just see them in the hallway and it's like, oh, hi. And, but the storytelling really like broke it down, and it was like this really, really welcoming, one of those very difficult stories, but I enjoyed it because it seemed like this welcoming moment of like, I wouldn't have known that experience necessarily. Because I don't know if I would have crossed paths with someone who was so willing to just share that in conversation. So I think we also high five to us, but we like worked that really well, because again, it was like, I don't know if we could have done that in the first round.
Yeah, it took some time.
I think we built it up to be that way for by the time like it happened. It was, and we still, not everyone shared, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I think the ones who did, they like felt they were able to.
Yeah, I think we've done a good job of creating like a safe environment. Not safe in the sense of we can't talk about things, right? Because the whole point is to talk about things, but like emotionally safe.
Yeah.
Right. And that took, I don't know, we started that series after we'd done the first two, which were each like 7 or 8 weeks long, right? So like we'd been meeting for several months already before we kind of launched the more vulnerable series.
Yeah.
But we got to decide what we're going to do for our next series.
Oh, I know.
That's besides recording for the podcast, we're also going to try and brainstorm about that today. We won't record that part of the conversation.
Because it'll be like the silence.
It'll be like the real behind the scenes.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, we're almost at time, which is hard to believe. But just one thing, I know that like I've had conversations with friends who are curious about trying to start something like this at their workplace, but sometimes they can be a little bit nervous, like, would it take a ton of work or a ton of time, or like, so I'm just curious, like, how has it been for you two in terms of like the time commitment, how hard it's been, what has been good about it? And to me, it feels like we've kind of had a relatively simple recipe we've followed that still had a really good effect.
Yeah.
But we're just curious about your perspective.
Well, first off, a big fat thank you to you, Chris, because I think you're really the core to this. So I think, for anyone, like it was from my side of things, it was really, really helpful and kind, like that you created the flexibility. Because again, like I know there are just so many times where I was like, I really want to, but due to my other work priorities or scheduling, I had to switch, or either I just couldn't attend. So I think the flexibility as facilitators too, I think like you are super smart in trying to find more than one person for you to do it, because I think it's like, why not have the three of us and kind of lean on each other. And I found that super helpful, kind of like, I can't do it this week, and somebody else facilitate, or even us having a schedule that I can plan around then where I can, and again, that works really well for my brain. I love structure. So if you're like, I need you on this day at this time, I will be committed and just plan other things around as best as I can. So that's been really, really helpful.
And I think it's worked well to take turns, because like each of us, I think, brings different strengths to how we facilitate. Like you're an actual professional facilitator, so that's good, but we each have our own styles.
Yeah, right.
I feel like I kind of get into teacher mode sometimes.
That's also facilitation, I also have teaching background, so it's how you've adapted and what works for you.
Yeah, I agree with Weija. The flexibility really helped. And not just with us three, but also with everyone else. People coming in from a meeting like maybe 10 minutes later, but that was okay. They were still able to, once they got settled, be present. And I think that's what they appreciated, because, we still are in a workplace. Everyone has meetings, but to be able to say, okay, and how you send out the reminders, hey, hungry for more is this tomorrow, this Thursday, today, in this room, come make it if you can. Yeah. So to have that flexibility, and people would miss, or they'd come back like 2 weeks later, and as if like just continuing the conversation. And also in terms of the flexibility, in addition, would be the easygoing nature of it. There wasn't any pressure like, you have to, participate, or you have to say the right thing. Yeah. I liked that kind of flow where it's just kind of like a casual conversation, just sitting down, having a meal with some friends or colleagues, and just saying what's on your mind, and having that safe space that we kind of established in the beginning really helped.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's what made us successful so far is just all of those factors. And, you, of course, keeping us organized.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yes.
Having somebody who can run a spreadsheet, that's always good.
Yes, I know.
And yeah, I feel like, it's paid off to be intentional, but it's also not rocket science, right? So it's like just simple things to be intentional about. We've kind of built a little mini subculture in the food bank where it's like okay to listen to other people and to share what's on your heart, because for me, like listening is so important, but I also want to share. Like I believe there's good news about Jesus to share with people, and Weija, you've seen me go into like evangelist Chris mode. I just love that we've created a space where I can do that too. I can share what I believe, but everyone can. Everyone can share where they're at, and that's what it's all about. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
well, thank you, friends. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll edit this into a usable podcast episode for people. So, and for podcast listeners, we are planning to sprinkle kind of interview style podcast episodes like this every once in a while into what we're doing. So not sure when the next one might be, but thanks for listening.
Finding God at Work is a production of Mission Central, a ministry based in Aurora, Illinois, dedicated to forming Christians for mission in everyday life. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to this episode to get 10 minutes of teaching on faith and work every Tuesday and Thursday. To get resources to go deeper with each podcast series, read our blog, and get info about upcoming courses on faith in the workplace, go to our website, missioncentral.church.